Hello, my name is Katrina Stevenson and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Local Government Association of Tasmania. It is my pleasure today to be able to take you through the roles and functions of councils and councillors. I hope this information assists you as you take up your roles following our recent elections. The roles and functions of councils and councillors are laid out in a number of pieces of legislation. However, as a new councillor, there are 4 pieces of legislation that you really should be familiar with right away. These are the Local Government Act 1993, the Local Government General and Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulations, and the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act. The Local Government Act 1993 is the piece of legislation you will likely look at most now that you have been elected. This Act establishes the councils and provides for the functions and powers of mayors, deputy mayors, councillors and general managers. The Act provides for and governs a range of powers and obligations. These include the Code of Conduct, which governs the behaviour of councillors, strategic and annual planning requirements, including community consultation, financial management and the setting of rates and charges, the ability to establish bylaws, special powers, reviews and inquiries, and also offences under the Act and complaints procedures. It is in Section 20 of the Local Government Act that the functions of councils are described. As outlined in those provisions, councils must provide for the health, safety and welfare of the community, represent and promote the interests of the community. They're accountable for peace, order and good government, and they must consult and involve community members in their decision making. In the past, we talked about the 3 R's of councils: roads, rates and rubbish. But modern councils are far more diverse in the functions and services that they provide to their communities. Yes, roads, rates and rubbish are still very important and take a large part of the council's budget. But in addition, councils are thinking about community safety, they're lighting streets, they're providing public walkways, they're shaping the community through building and planning services. They're looking after the health of community with their public health inspections. They regulate traffic and parking. They deliver a wide range of recreation facilities, including parks, reserves, pools and gyms. They look after community halls. They deliver arts facilities and programs. Many provide community services and health services. And increasingly, they're taking an important role in economic development and tourism at the local level. It is Section 27 of the Local Government Act where the functions of mayors and deputy mayors are outlined. First of all, the mayor must act as leader of the community in the municipal area. The mayor is required to carry out the civic and ceremonial functions of the mayoral office and promote good governance by and for the council. That is, they are expected to lead by example. Mayors chair council meetings where decisions are made, and they must act as the spokesperson for the council, representing the decisions made by the whole council. Because of this key role, mayors must be extremely familiar with meeting procedures regulations. Mayors represent the council on a range of council and intergovernmental meetings, and importantly, act as the link between councillors and the operational staffing component of the council, in that they regularly liaise with the general manager on the activities of council and the performance and exercise of council functions. Mayors must also lead and participate in the appointment and monitoring of the performance of the general manager. It is important to understand that regardless of what may have been promised during an election campaign, a mayor does not have a mandate and, like all councillors, has only one vote around the council table. Mayors must develop good relationships with councillors in order to build trust and effect leadership, and work with councillors to take any of their ideas forward. In this way, they are no different than other councillors. The Deputy Mayor has a slightly different role. On a day-to-day basis, they do not differ in function from a councillor. However, when a mayor is absent, they may exercise all the same powers and functions of the mayor. It is in Section 28 of the Local Government Act that we find out more about the functions of a councillor, both acting as an individual or collectively as part of the overall team. As an individual councillor, you are required to represent the community and act in the community's best interests. You must facilitate communications between council and the community and participate in council activities. Individually, councillors have duties and responsibilities which are authorised by council, which they must carry out, and at all times they must accurately represent the council's policies and decisions. A councillor cannot speak on behalf of a council unless formally delegated to do so. That is the job of the mayor. It is not always well understood outside of the local government sector that as an individual it is very hard to deliver on any specific promises because councils make decisions as a collective through the formal processes of council meetings. Section 28 of the Local Government Act describes the collective functions of councillors. These are to develop and monitor the implementation of strategic plans and budgets, to determine and monitor the application of policies, plans and programs and make sure they are efficient and effective, and that there is fair and equitable treatment of the employees of the council. Collectively, councillors must facilitate and encourage the planning and development of the municipal area in the best interests of the community, including when acting collectively as a planning authority. Councillors collectively appoint and monitor the performance of the General Manager and determine and review Council's resource allocation and expenditure activities, that is budget setting, asset and services plans, and the setting of rates and charges. In performing any function of a councillor, whether individual or collective, Section 28 makes it clear that a councillor must not direct or attempt to direct an employee of the council in relation to the discharge of their duties, and they must not perform any function of the mayor without the approval of the mayor. And finally, a councillor must always represent accurately the policies and decisions of the council. The Local Government Act sets out distinct roles for the council and the General Manager. The General Manager is responsible for implementing council decisions and the general administration of council functions. The day-to-day running of the council is the General Manager's job, and this includes managing council's physical and human resources. Councillors do not get involved in staff appointments, with the exception of the appointment of the General Manager. The General Manager and council officers are there to provide advice and support to councillors. There is a range of professional expertise available, and councillors must consider this qualified advice when evaluating options and making decisions. A key challenge for councillors is not to get involved in the day-to-day operations of the council by directing staff. This is not your role. The councillor's role is a strategic one, as we will discuss in the next slide. Building trust and establishing a good relationship with the General Manager is part of the role of all councillors and is critical to your ongoing effectiveness. In laying out the functions of councillors, mayors, deputy mayors and general managers, the Local Government Act makes a clear distinction between operational and strategic roles. Councillors have a strategic and oversight role, but it is the General Manager of the Council who is responsible for the day-to-day operations of the Council. However, collectively, councillors are responsible for the appointment of the General Manager for up to 5 years and must monitor the performance of the General Manager thoroughly and regularly. The Mayor has a clear role in liaising with the General Manager on council activities and performance, and the General Manager must respond to the Council's decisions, implementing the policies and decisions and providing advice and support to the Council. Finally, it is the General Manager, not the Council, who appoints and oversees other staff. Once you are elected to Council, there will be advice and information flowing on an almost daily basis to you. However, it is at the formal Council meeting where Council decisions are made. Council meetings must be conducted according to the rules laid out in the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulations 2015. As a new councillor, there is not long between the deciding of the election and your first council meeting, and so it is important that you make yourselves familiar with the content of these regulations as soon as possible. The Local Government Act contains a number of rules which are designed to support good governance and ethical behaviour. I'll refer to these as the compliance provisions. Councillors must be familiar with and comply with legislation, and that is in full. However, there are also some serious offences under the Local Government Act, and these come with strong penalties attached. These include pecuniary interest, disclosure of information, improper use of information, and misuse of office. The purpose of the compliant provisions in the Act is to ensure impartial decision-making by councillors, to ensure that councillors act and are seen to act in the best interest of their communities, to protect the reputation of local government and build and support and maintain public confidence in local government. In addition to the offences provisions, you must also comply with Council's Code of Conduct, and I encourage you to look at your Council's website to see what that contains. As councillors, it is important to understand your responsibilities under the Local Government Act and all other relevant legislation. It is important that you strive for the highest ethical standards and good governance in fulfilling your functions under legislation. You should always act in the best interests of your community and be open and accountable and as transparent as possible. Always seek advice if you are unsure about anything. You can ask your General Manager, you can ask experienced councillors, or you can ask us at the Local Government Association.